I used to be able to talk to my dead brother. He told me unforgettable things. I was a sheltered kid. Never had a lot of freedom, really. Hell, I wasn't even allowed to go to the bathroom by myself until I was 8. It wasn't really my parents' fault, though. Before I was born, they had another kid, Jacob. They loved him a lot. Even more than myself, I remember thinking as a kid. One day, I guess they weren't careful enough and Jacob ended up going missing. He was only 9 years old. He simply left, never to be seen again. They gave up looking for him after 7 months, and a year later, they got pregnant with me. They never found his body, so I think a little part of them always hoped he was alive. I never met him, but I remember ever since I was little I had felt this weird connection to him. My parents used to tell me I'd scare the hell out of them when I was younger, because I kept on talking to this one corner in the closet. Whenever they'd ask me who I was talking to, I would just say Big Brother. Keep in mind, I was younger than 3 when this had happened. They hadn't told me about him, and there's no way I could have known otherwise. I do remember he was a part of my life. Maybe it was some subconscious trauma response to having overprotective parents, but I could have sworn he was always there, hovering over me. The first time I remember him talking to me, I was around 5. I was coloring some picture in the playroom, and Jacob was talking to me. "What are you drawing?" he asked me. He tugged on my braids. I remember he did that a lot. "It's a forest with fairies and a rainbow and a baby deer," I said proudly, holding it up to him. He scoffed. "That don't even look like a real forest. To draw nature, you gotta be in nature. Here, come with me." He took my wrist in his cold, icy hand and practically dragged me outside. He handed me a little shovel I used to help Mum in the garden. "Dig right there," he told me, and I obliged. I found the usual: bugs, rocks, roots. But I also dug up something else, and Jacob smiled as I pulled it out of the ground. It was a backpack. I think it used to be red. It felt heavy and there was definitely something in it, but the zipper was so rusted I couldn't get it open. "That's all right," Jacob shrugged. "We'll get it later." "Lily?" I heard my mother's panicked voice call. "Lily?" She saw me outside and Jacob quickly took the bag from me and pushed me away. "Oh my goodness, don't run off like that all alone." "I wasn't alone," I protested, looking back to see nothing. Jacob had disappeared. My mum dragged me back inside by the collar of my dress and put me in my room. "Do not leave here. You mustn't go outside like that. Stay safe." I never really liked my bedroom. Something about it was just off, even to me as a little kid. I never felt entirely alone, and there was a certain amount of bad energy that I could just feel. I especially hated the closet. Whenever I would change clothes, I'd shut my eyes and fish around until I found something. I didn't care if it was ugly. I just wanted to get out of that closet as soon as I could. All of the energy that was in the room felt like it was smothering me in there. Suddenly, Jacob appeared behind me. I jumped. He looked where I had been staring, right at the closet. "You're scared of that thing, huh, little sis?" he asked, and I nodded shakily. He glanced at me, then back at the closet. "Sometimes you need to face your fears." He very slowly paced towards the closet, then opened it in one swift movement. He motioned for me to come over. I, believing everything my big brother told me, inched towards him. "Go in." I shut my eyes and stepped in, and to my surprise, he shut the door behind me, leaving me in the scary dark closet alone. I cried for him, but he didn't respond. I curled into a little ball and cried into my knees. The feeling of dread was overpowering me. I felt so alone. It was too quiet. Not a good, peaceful quiet. The kind of quiet that you can feel in your bones, like there was someone else in the closet with me, watching me. To comfort myself, I tapped on the closet walls. One section, I had noticed, sounded different than every other part of the wall, like it was hollow. I never liked that corner of the closet. It was the scariest part. Eventually, my mom called me down for dinner and I worked up the courage to get up and open the door. Jacob wasn't there. Nobody was. That night, my parents told me not to speak about Jacob ever again. That stopped me for a while. I honestly don't remember a lot up until I was 8. I don't know if this was the first time I had spoken to him since the closet incident, but it's the most significant. This time, he took me to my dad's work computer and showed me all the fun games to play. But after a while, he told me to stop playing the silly games and start Googling things. Being a sheltered kid, I didn't even know what Google was. He told me to Google Jacob Holden. "That's you," I remember saying. I clicked on the first article I found. Jacob Holden, age 9, went missing from his Colorado home on March 12, 2003. He leaves without a trace, the only thing missing from his room being his school backpack. Authorities have tried to reach out to his parents, Jennifer and Carl Holden, to no avail. He was not seen leaving the house and was not seen by anybody after he left school. "School backpack," I said, "like the one we found together?" Without a word, he handed me the old rusted-off backpack. He then handed me a pair of scissors. "Cut it open, Lily, please." I obliged, and inside the backpack I had found years ago was everything. Jacob Holden, passport. Jacob Holden, birth certificate. Anything that could have identified him was in that bag. But why was it buried in our backyard? I began thinking about everything. Mom and Dad almost never let me outside alone. The backpack was buried outside with everything in it. Mom and Dad apparently never talked to the police, even though they had told me they had searched for months. Jacob was never seen leaving the house, and the hollow wall in my closet. I guess Jacob had realized I had known what was up, because he presented me with something. A large sledgehammer. "Go to your closet, Lily. You know what to do." With tears in my eyes, I took the sledgehammer from him and ran to my closet. I went, shaking, to the door that held my biggest fear for so long, now knowing that it was true the whole time. I found the hollow corner and let the sledgehammer loose on it. Something they don't tell you about dead bodies is, if they're trapped in an airtight space, such as a wall, they don't really decompose. They more just dry up, like meat in a dry aging fridge. Jacob's official cause of death was starvation. He was still alive when they put him in there. I didn't ever see Mom and Dad after that. Police took me to live with my aunt. I never saw Jacob either. I missed him. The last time I saw him, I was in the back of a police car, being taken to a foster home until they could find a relative who would take me in. I looked back at my house, my window, to see Jacob. He was staring at me, blankly. He waved goodbye at me, and I gave him a smile. Maybe he could never leave that place, but he made sure I could. He was one hell of a big brother after all.